I've been pushing this button for a minute, and I'm glad that North Carolina Central and FAMU have scheduled a home and home in 2025 and 2027. This is something I'd like to see more from our SWAC and MEAC schools. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can go to FanDuel.com, and if they put down a winning $5 bet, you get $150 back in bonus bets. So go ahead and go to FanDuel.com to make every moment more. We'll wrap up today's episode with probably the most exciting moment, which is Christian Ing's 2 top 10 dunks. And I don't just mean the top 10 that I've ever seen. Both of these dunks made it on the SportsCenter top 10. In segment 2, Delaware State is surprisingly dropping their season ticket cost, despite the fact that they have DeSean Jackson, who is a huge draw. But I want to kick this off with something I would like to see more of. Something that I feel like is very easy to do, and this is my proof. North Carolina Central and FAMU have scheduled a home and home series. So we already knew that the Rattlers and the Eagles were going to play each other in 2025. That wasn't something that was new news to us. And it's funny because I have been meaning to come on here and talk about the North Carolina Central schedule for a while, and I just haven't done it. I think we've had a lot of big time moments, whether it be the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, the Legacy Bowl. We've been bowling for a while. We're going to get to pro days in a minute, but I hope that we're able to get to this at some point. But I think that North Carolina Central has a phenomenal 2025 schedule. One piece of that is the fact that they're facing FAMU, and it's a SWAC versus MEAC game. I love that. You know this. If you're an everydayer, I've been pushing this button for a while. So it's happy to me, or it makes me happy, I should say, for me to be able to see a MEAC school versus a SWAC school. We'll get to more on that in a second. But we already knew that the 2025 matchup was scheduled. Now we know that it's a home and home series. FAMU is going to host in 25, and the North Carolina Central is going to host in 2027. You see these all the time with, I don't think you see them as much with out-of-conference games, to be honest, in the HBCU world. But you do see these very frequently on the FBS level. I haven't tracked whether or not you see many home and home series, but on the FBS level, it's very frequent. You see bigger schools say, all right, we're going to host here, and then you're going to host. Or maybe we have 2 neutral site games. But this is regular that you see these type of series. And I would love for us to have that in the HBCU world more frequently. I don't think we do it enough. I think so often we look at the SWAC MEAC Challenge and we look at the Celebration Bowl as 2 games every year. 2 games every year that are going to have a SWAC versus MEAC matchup. And that's how we kind of determine conference supremacy. I think the latter makes sense. Yes, the Celebration Bowl is the best versus the best. So using that to determine conference supremacy every single season is logical. But it's a crapshoot on what the SWAC MEAC Challenge is going to look like. But I am very pro scheduling these games. When you see it on the FBS level, it's often like, oh, we get to see these 2 juggernauts that won't regularly go against each other. See, an SEC school is going to go against a bunch of juggernauts every year because they're in the SEC. A Big Ten school is going to go against a bunch of juggernauts every single year because they're in the Big Ten. But when you see an SEC versus a Big Ten school, you understand that that is a lot of time a rarity in a game of college football where people are looking for perfection, in a game of college football where people are looking for the easy win. I think the expanding playoffs is going to change how much people want easy wins. They might strive to have more competitive games lined up. But you're looking here in the MEAC and the SWAC, that don't matter. Perfection is irrelevant on this level because you're playing for the Celebration Bowl, and the only thing that affects that is your record in conference play. So nothing else even matters. So the idea that I have to make sure that I'm perfect when I'm not playing SWAC play, no, go schedule that MEAC school. Go schedule that MEAC school. On the flip side of it, go schedule that SWAC school. And this is something that honestly I do feel very personal about. It's something that kind of grinds my gears that I don't see enough. It grinds my gears that I don't see enough because I'll say this. I don't think Central shies away from these games. I'm not going to give them a lot of credit for scheduling Valley, but they did schedule Alabama State last year. They didn't have to do that in the Orange Blossom Classic. They did not have to do that. And I feel like they don't shy away from challenges. So I can always praise them. And they have good schedules. If it didn't involve the SWAC, that's not the school I'm going to point to and be like, you need to be better. But I'm glad that it does involve the SWAC. But one thing I'll notice is that somebody might be like, I'm just going to throw it out there. Norfolk State played FAMU. I know that was in the SWAC MEAC challenge, but the point is Norfolk State play FAMU, but it's always FAMU or Bethune-Cookman, right? Like it's MEAC schools playing schools that used to be in the MEAC, and it feels comfortable to them. If we're taking our SWAC MEAC challenge and Celebration Bowl, they'll schedule a FAMU. You'll see FAMU versus South Carolina State. That's not a big deal to them because, oh, we're familiar with playing the Rattlers, so cool. But I'm talking about go play a team that you're not familiar with. It's like, are you trying to put your toe in the water a little bit, see what the temperature's like? Go play the SWAC. Go play the MEAC. I don't want to frame it as if the MEAC is scared of the SWAC. I don't, right? But I've noticed that it doesn't work that way outside of FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. It's as if the only teams they're comfortable scheduling in the SWAC are teams that they have prior history with, as if they're not conversing with other schools. And it goes the same way. So I want to make sure I'm framing it this way. The SWAC has a smaller room on their schedule. I get that. I don't believe it's an excuse, though. Now, I'll be very clear. I want to see a specific set of games, right? Like, I don't want to see Norfolk State versus UAPB. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. Top level teams. I will accept the bottom of the conference on each side facing each other because it's a start, and it's what I'm asking for. And at the end of the day, I guess beggars can't be choosers. But that doesn't apply here because I am begging and I am choosing. I am being very choosy and I'm being very beggy here. I want to see high-level teams. You never know on a week in, week out, or year in, year out basis who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. But when I look at FAMU versus North Carolina Central, my eyes get big. When I look at FAMU versus North Carolina Central, I see two teams who have put together quality product over years. I know that FAMU had a down year last year, but even in their down year, they're still a respectable team. So when I see Central versus FAM, I'm excited. But I would like to see Central versus Jackson State. I would like to see Alabama State versus Howard. I would like to see some of these teams I think have been successful over the few years, so I think they'll be successful again, scheduled to play each other. Alabama State versus North Carolina Central is something that I want every single year because what that provided to me was the two teams that I thought were the favorites in their conference. Did I end up being correct about that? No, I didn't. And I've said it multiple times. How I feel about Alabama State, it's not necessarily how everybody else feels about Alabama State. But I wasn't in a huge minority. I actually think I was in a popular opinion. I think I was a part of the popular opinion that they would be able to take off. But anyway, the point is, we just don't see enough of these games. We don't see enough of these games. I don't think that there is a reason why we can't make it happen. If there's anybody who can tell me why SWAC and MEAC games simply don't work, please comments, DM. I'm at South Exclusive. You want to catch me on Instagram at _Mouth of the South. I don't be checking my DMs too frequently on there, but I promise I'll see it eventually. And if this is what it's about, I will respond. I just don't. I think it's doable. It's doable. A home and home is doable. And yes, maybe working with people you're familiar with allows you to ease into that. But what about the SWAC? What about the SWAC? How do they start that? Maybe they need to start the dance. Somebody needs to start this dance. But anyway, I don't want to be too naggy. I've been choosy. I've been beggy. I don't want to be naggy too. Let me just say this: North Carolina Central versus FAMU is going to be a really fun home and home series. I'm glad both teams get to host. I'm glad that we get to see this 2 years, and I do think that you're going to see quality play out of both of them. I may not. I may have my aggravations about the specific SWAC school that the MEAC tends to work with. But A, I'm still getting what I want in some capacity. And B, I'm not going to use North Carolina Central as an example of this because they schedule great. Like, I love their schedule. So, and they're taking a step that I want. Home and home. Let's get it done. Delaware State is dropping the price of their season tickets. And I think that this is dope. I really do love this because it goes against what every business model would probably tell you to do. And I love them for that. Let's break it down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. The NBA season is here. I'm ready, honestly and truly. I'm ready for me to get to Luka versus the Mavs. I know that it just happened for you. For me, it's happening as I'm about to record. So I'm trying to do everything I can to knock this out and then go knock that out. But let's say I'm a little bit late. Let's say I'm recording and I get to the game late. I don't have to place my bets before tip off. I can get there in the second quarter. I can have quarter bets. I can have live bets, and I can add these to my same game parlays. So that's the beautiful part. I'm sitting here recording right now at a time that I don't feel like disclosing. The game will probably have started by the time I get there. And that does nothing to destroy what I can do on FanDuel. I'm not SOL at all. So you go ahead and go to FanDuel.com. And if you're new to FanDuel, you can get $150 back in bonus bets by putting down a $5 winning bet. Just go ahead and go to FanDuel.com to make every moment more. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Today for all of the biggest stories around the world, not just the HBCUs, not just the colleges, but every sport all day. Delaware State dropping their season ticket prices is dope because it kind of goes against everything people in business would tell you to do. You have DeSean Jackson leading Delaware State in the battle on a week in, week out basis, and the school responds by making season tickets more affordable. DeSean Jackson is your new head coach. It's not like he's been here for a couple of years. This is your first year with DeSean Jackson. And you say, you know what? I see where the tickets were at last year. I'm going to drop those down even lower. Let's crack out these numbers, right? Because that's not typically how business works. Typically, business will say, DeSean Jackson, ooh, shiny new attraction. Let's up the price. That's not what Delaware State did, though. Let me get into last year's prices. I got it on my phone, so I want to go ahead and load this up, right? So last year, you had season tickets for $350. Now, let's just assume you're getting everything the same, because as you look at it, reserve seating, fast pass to all home games, a branded seat back. Oh, no, you got to buy that. $10 food voucher and then a parking pass, right? So reserve seating, fast pass, voucher, parking pass. You look at this year, you're going to get for $200 reserve seating, fast pass, $10 voucher, and a parking pass. And the branded seat back that we had mentioned already that I'm assuming is still for purchase. It's the same package for $150 less. And it doesn't just stop there. See, you got the VIP cabana is the only thing that is not mentioned in 2025. So I don't know if they're not going to have that or if they haven't released the details for it, but we're going to go with the Hornet season ticket package, and then we're going to go with the VIP box suites. The box suite are listed at $1,200 to $2,000. This year, they're $1,000 to $1,800. That's not how things work, guys. Like, that's just not how it works. And the VIP does get you VIP access to all home games, 8 box seat season tickets, 8 Nike apparel items, meal delivery, catered soft beverages, a box ambassador, 2 autographed season posters, which I'm assuming will probably have DeSean Jackson on it, invitation to pregame social events, subscription to our Hornet newsletter, and parking passes. I sound like I'm just a spokesman for Delaware State, but if you want to cut the check, let me know that. Let me know that. Let me know that. Let me know that. Anyway, the point is, everything in business would tell you having a great new attraction would allow you to charge more. And I think that is true for Delaware State, where the conversations about, hey, if I raise the price, what happened? Right. But like just in general, I think some would say that this is bad business. I think that some would say, why are you dropping prices by $150, $200 when you could increase prices by $150 to $200? I mean, you got DeSean Jackson. I know people are going to want to come out to see DeSean Jackson. And I'm sure there was conversations about, hey, if we dip it a little bit, will we get more sales? Will that even out? What are the numbers? But I'm not here to make a financial argument, because I don't think that the financial argument is what really made this decision. They understand the risk. They understand that by dropping prices, I may make less than I could have because of the DeSean Jackson factor and the upping the prices, all of that. They understand the financial risk of this. I believe it comes down to one of the things that I really two things that I talked about with DeSean Jackson when he went to the Delaware State basketball game. When DeSean Jackson went to that basketball game, I mentioned accessibility and I mentioned community. And those are two things that I think are very prevalent in Delaware State's decision to drop the prices. Accessibility, I mean, that's clear and obvious. It costs less. It was $350 last year. You probably could have upped it a little bit, but you said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to drop it. I could have kept it the same, but I'm going to drop it. So now instead of $350 to get season tickets, it's only $200. And I'm already first off, you have more home games this year than you did last year. So this is real bang for your buck. I'm having to pay less money for more games with a bigger attraction. To me, this is about filling out that stadium, having the whole Dover community pop out to the games. It's about being accessible, allowing more people to make it, because they understand what kind of draw that DeSean Jackson is. They understand that people want to come out to see the Hornets, to see what he does. People are going to be tracking Delaware State in a way that they haven't been doing in recent history. So for you to drop the prices, you have to know that you could have raised it. You had to know that you could have, and you chose not to. And I think that's because you want more people there. I think you want it to be accessible. I think you want the environment to be greater. So don't price anybody out. I may price some people out and still get enough sales to where I make more, but we ain't even running that risk. It's a risk both ways. It's a risk both ways. You had to make a decision. I probably would have just kept it the same. I probably wouldn't have dropped the prices, but that's why I ain't in charge. This was a phenomenal decision. I really do. I really do love that, because I talked about DeSean Jackson investing in the community, not financially, but being present, showing that I am a real Delaware State Hornet. I'm involved in not only football, but then also the basketball community, in addition to my own sport. Now everybody can be involved. Everybody wants to see. Now they can. Basketball games be cheap to them up. Well, I don't know how basketball. Actually, I don't know how much basketball tickets cost. I've never bought a game at TSU. Like, as I think about, I was saying they'd be cheap, but then I thought about it. They probably are cheaper than the football tickets, but I've never had to buy a ticket to either one. Never. But hey man, don't let the truth get in the way of a good point, right? But anyway, the point is, this is another community-focused decision. Dropping the prices so that nobody's priced out of places that we know you want to go. We know you're going to want to show up. Let me make it easier for you to do so. Great move by Delaware State. Great move by DSU. Now I want to push forward, because Norfolk State. Ooh, Christian Ings, 2-time top 10 appearances. 2 top 10 appearances. This is exciting for me, because I got texted one and I got surprised with the other. So let's break down the 2 dunks that put Christian Ings on the top 10 as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Christian Ings had the first and third plays on the SportsCenter top 10 on Tuesday night. No, Monday night. On Monday night. Now, what makes this achievement so special? What makes this achievement so special is the fact that on Monday night, you had a big time block by Anthony Edwards on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those names are important because we're talking about, it's not just a big time. Let me rewind it. We're talking about Shai Gilgeous and Anthony Edwards, two of the bigger young names in the NBA. We're talking about the Timberwolves and we're talking about the Thunder, two of the better teams. I know the Thunder are having kind of an off year right now, but they're right. I think they're in the play-in at the moment, but you still have hope that they can get it together because they're led by one of the biggest stars of his age group. I'm not here to be locked on NBA. What I am here to do is to set the scene. And the Timberwolves came back from 25 points. And at the end of the game, in overtime, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander driving to the bucket in hopes of laying up the ball. And I think that would have given them the lead with like 2-3 seconds left. He goes for the layup and Anthony Edwards swats it. It's a major play. It's a very impressive play featuring two premium athletes, two premium players in a premium game. And that didn't get number one. I set the scene perfectly. We talking about pro basketball. But Christian Ings, he took over. In the last minute and a half, he had two highlight dunks. The first one, he cut to the lane, and he ain't lay it up. There was no chance for a block. There was somebody in front of him. The same way that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had Anthony Edwards in front of him. There was somebody in front of Christian Ings. He shall not be named. Boom! I'm talking about drives through the lane, just a little snake move, goes to the right, and then goes up and elevates over this guy and absolutely slams it. This is the one that wasn't sent to me. I didn't realize that Ings had two big-time dunks. That's not the one that really made the waves, but this was still the number 3 play. So I thought that was really interesting because you got a poster, and it's your last home game. You got a poster. And these games are still relatively close at this time. Let me see if I have the score for both of them, actually, because, I mean, the poster doesn't really matter for why the score was the score. I mean, I don't think the score matters for the poster because it was nothing fancy about it. It was just Ings cutting to the hoop, started off at the top of the key, kind of drove left, snaked over to the right, and then just went up and dunked on a guy. So there was nothing, I don't want to say flashy because that's just not true. But anyway, the game was 63-57 at that time that the dunk happened. Blew by him with speed. Dude shouldn't have jumped. He was going to get it. But anyway, now you get to the number 1 play. And this is the one that was sent to me. And this was the highlight. And some will call this a dunk of the year in the HBCU world. It's 67-60 at this point, and it's 18.4 seconds left. And Christian Ings is coming down on the fast break. I don't know how they get it here. It looks like it may have been a steal or something because all of Morgan State didn't get back. And you have a guy running. He's trying to come chase Ings. And he see Ings go up. And I think he saw what happened to his partner. I think he saw what happened to his running mate last time somebody tried to jump with Christian Ings. See, when you put somebody on a poster, everybody know I probably shouldn't jump with you. But my thing is, the Morgan State defender was still on the way. And Christian Ings pulls out a windmill. You're supposed to windmill when it's open court. Now, granted, the dude didn't jump and end up being relatively open, but this guy is running back. This was a visually, aesthetically pleasing play. This was an audacious play because if I see you running up and you trying to like poke the ball or you just trying to act like you're going to play some defense, I'm supposed to just go up on you. But this dude said, man, so Mason sent me this. I'm gonna end it here. But Mason sent me this. My guy Mason Smith, friend of the show, y'all know, right? Former Sports Illustrated. Shout out to my boy, critically acclaimed, about to be award winning. So let's show some love to my boy Mason Smith. He up there in Pennsylvania doing a doggone thing. But the point is, He sends me this tweet. He says, what did the rim do to him? And it was a ferocious dunk. Like, it was strong. So I see, but all I could think was, this dude is in your face and you doing a windmill? Nah, Christian Ings is different. Christian Ings is different. He had the first and third play on the Tuesday night SportsCenter top 10. That's all they were saying the whole time, man. So I appreciate you for making this your first listen, guys. Tomorrow is Thursday. I gotta look. I think that tomorrow will be the Carson Vincent show because I think that the offensive linemen come up first, and they will be starting their combine tomorrow. And we need to talk about this. I've just been getting way too busy with too many new things, but tomorrow will be a great day. We won't have any new basketball to talk about. We'll have some women game that's coming up. We'll have women's game. I think Texas Southern versus Jackson State might be coming up either this weekend or tomorrow. So anyway, the point is, Carson Vincent, expect him to be the topic of conversation on Thursday's episode because his combine is on the way. And we may be talking about him again the day after, depending on when it is. Anywho. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, with the who, I felt like I seen that Angel Reese video where she was going through hooty hoo. Anyway, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.